Woo woo! Microphone check. 1 2 1 2 and 3
Three,
4.
four,
All those numbers.
5, 6.
All that. All that. Welcome. This is the Blaze the Lion podcast. I'm your host, Blaze. Blaze the Lion. Blaze Doctari. For those who know, if you really know, you really know. For September, all month, we are sticking to the theme of holistic healers. Yes, yes, that theme may be intriguing to you. You may be wondering exactly holistic and healing. How are you healing holistically? We're going to get into it. All right. If you missed last week's episode, that was episode 76. We had just some herbs on from New York City, and he shared a lot about cleansing, real cleansing, not just buying a box on the shelf that says cleanse, but real cleansing. And for those who are watching, know that he challenged me to a 14-day fast. So here we are. I'm on day 4 right now, this 14-day fast. So for tonight, we're still sticking with that same theme of holistic healing. And this is episode 77. Indeed, indeed. For those who are watching right now, make sure you like. We're on YouTube live right now. So make sure you hit that like button, you subscribe, you share, you tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a damn friend about the Blaze of Line podcast. Indeed, indeed. Again, if you're loving movement and you want to rock the apparel, we got the Blaze of Line podcast. If you can see it, I'll turn my camera down. Blaze of Line podcast apparel right now on the website, iraiselions.com. And we are moving. Feel free to send us your monetary support. All right? We don't mind. We won't say no. You can go to $ Blaze the Lion. It's pretty easy. Or you can go to anchor.fm/Blaze the Lion/support. All right. So September is a special month. Why is it special? Well, it's special for a number of reasons. One reason being it's my birthday month, my Earth Strong month. All right, that's coming up soon. And also, as I mentioned in last week's episode, that September is a month of healing. I firmly believe that. So people will be healed. People will get on that journey of healing this month. People will be moved. But along with healing, well, comes challenges, right? Comes being uncomfortable, comes the unknown. It's all part of healing. Healing is not always luxury and comfort. All right? Sometimes you got to uncover some of that trauma. You got to uncover some of those bad habits and bad eating habits and bad thinking and all of that. So just stay strapped in to this journey, especially in September, as together as we heal. Indeed, indeed. So for tonight's guest, this is someone where I've heard of this location for several years now. And I've gone to events there, I've gone to vegan events there, I've bought tinctures there, I've bought herbs there. And well, as fate would have it, as the universe would have it at the right time, I felt led to go back there to get a certain tincture. And I was with my son, and I was time crunching because I felt like I wasn't gonna make it because on Google they said they closed at a certain time. So I was rushing to try to make it, and I got lost. How did I get lost? I go there all the time, but I got lost in the journey. Long story short, I made it, and I was able to build with our guest here, and so it just felt right. It just felt right to just showcase what he had, what he has to offer, and just his whole energy. All right. So I want to introduce tonight's guest is none other than Ricky Tree, founder of, I'm going to say this right, Botanica Organica.
Got
Welcome to
it. You
the
got
pod,
it.
brother. Awesome, awesome. So, I do my little intro about, for my guests, but share with the people just a little bit about yourself.
A little bit about myself. All right. Well, I am Ricky Tree. Foundationally, I'm an herbalist. I study and work with herbs, and I'm a farmer. So those are the two main things. And then like a little bit more, I'm a student of the martial arts and just like fitness and health and well-being. The human potential is really something I like to explore the thresholds of, and just that in and of itself has sort of led me to where I'm at today, though through the holistic and the natural scope, the natural and holistic path, of exploring the human potential. And so, just like the different types of breath works and the different types of meditations and the different types of herbal strategies that we can use to reach pinnacle health and such like that is all. Those are all, just to be brief here, um, are all things that I'm a student of, and sort of how how I walk and the ways that I express myself. Um, yeah, so that's to be brief. I know we have a lot of time left over, so I want to leave space to be able to dive into all those points there.
For sure, for sure. As you were talking, one thing, well, they all caught my attention, but specifically one thing really caught my attention, and it was martial arts. And I know there are so many ideas on martial arts. There are so many types of martial arts. I myself have a background in martial arts, so I'm just curious as to your expertise and your experience with the arts.
Man, well, my dad has been studying martial arts his whole life, and so when I was old enough to get in the youngest class, he had me at in like the YMCA when I was like 5 years old, taking just a traditional Shotokan karate style, and that's I advanced through. I advanced through the belts and did that whole thing and got into the world of competing and changed schools a few times and but really kind of stuck with Shotokan until I was in the seventh grade. And when I was in the seventh grade, actually I was in the sixth grade, and my dad was like, "You should try out for the wrestling team." And I'm like 95 pounds soaking wet, right? And I go to the cafeteria where they used to do the practice, and I saw these big dudes. I was like, "No way, man! Like that's crazy." And I went home and I was like, "That's not for me. I'm gonna get hurt in there." So then in the seventh grade, I would take the bus to school, and I sat next to the dude that was smaller than me. He was probably 85 pounds soaking wet. Maurice. I hope he's good. I haven't talked to him in a long time. Anyway, um, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm on the wrestling team." And I looked at him. I was like, "What?" And then he told me about the weight classes and all that, and I was like, "Oh my god, I could have started this last year." So I started wrestling, and that's really kind of what opened up the can of martial arts for me. Like once I started wrestling, had a knack for it, kind of thing, and then from there, like the closest thing was judo, and then hapkido, and then I learned about Muay Thai boxing and jujitsu, and then it just kind of like went on and on and on. I became, like really competitive, kind of world class competitive jujitsu fighter, and just kind of studied all of that, and mixed martial arts was pretty much like where I ended. And this kind of like it kind of like this kind of leads into how you opened up this conversation about healing, and how healing isn't always that luxury retreat where you're just like, oh yeah, chilling out. As an intense competitive athlete, I had a fair share of injuries that I had to overcome, and the last ones, I would say, were ones that really put me out and down, and I really had to like reflect and learn more about the vortex of healing. But just to stay on topic here for what you said, like, yeah, Shotokan Karate was basically my foundational training. And then I wrestled for, 10 years and fought jujitsu for 8 years. And in the grappling is really where I excelled a lot. And, I studied all of the other martial arts here and there just because that was my lifestyle. Many of the, I shouldn't say all of them, but many of the other martial arts I kind of like tried and played with, but I was really competitive with wrestling, jiu-jitsu, and Shotokan.
Very cool. Very cool. I too started martial arts. I did judo, not as early as 5. I think I was 8, and I hated it. I like discipline. I, I didn't want to. I still remember 8 years old, and we used to have to hold the horse stance, right? Getting your horse stance. And after a while, like your legs get tired, right? So
Mhm.
if you were to have like your knees locked and you weren't paying attention, you would get tripped. Yeah, or you get
My instructor would come through with one of those. I forgot what they're called, but one of those like little sticks and hit you in the leg.
yeah. So at 8, I just wasn't there yet. I wasn't ready. And then fast forward to my 20s and the UFC. It's like, this is awesome. This is it. And I started training, but by then it was kind of too late because I was already on my own. I had bills and mortgage, and I'm like, man, I can't afford to like train 4 or 5 hours a day. I have to actually work and bring in money. So kind of wish I would have started earlier, but no. But nonetheless, I still had my fun, in the arts. I did boxing and did some judo and some karate and stuff. So still fun, still fun times. So, as one who has also been injured, as I'm in the fitness field, I'm a personal trainer and former athlete, um, and I've battled with injuries up to last year. I was in a wheelchair. So, yeah, I know all about injuries and how it can plague you and all sorts of things. So, just when you were going through injuries, how was your lifestyle? Were you eating healthy or?
So that's what's funny, right? Is like I was this like I felt superhuman, man. Like I was so strong in my body, like I'm a small guy, but I was just like really strong and extremely athletic and very flexible naturally. And like, it was just like my whole life, of that. And of course, like I had parents that, um, wanted me to eat healthy and they taught me health in the way that they thought they knew health. And, and it was all good and dandy, but honestly, like, I was 18, 19, 20-year-old cat, going to, BK and Taco Bell, McDonald's type of thing. And like, just not really being healthy, you know what I'm saying? And it wasn't until I got the, I would say like the second most important injury, when I was in really that injury happened when I was like 15, and then I kind of just like busted through it and kind of healed it by just working through it. And then because I did it like that, I re-injured myself when I was 21, in that same spot. And it required, I don't know if it required, but my lack of knowing any better or whatever, I had to get or I should say I got a minor arthroscopic surgery in my hip, where they like went in with like a thing and like did some work on my labrum in my hip. I tore my labrum in my hip. And so they did some work in there. It wasn't like this major surgery, but it kept me in bed for 6 weeks or so while I was like learning and healing. While I was healing, and while I was healing in bed, now I'm like in college, right? And I learned about TED Talks, and I probably watched every TED Talk you can watch on healing with the mind, and I started to learn about yoga and meditation and all these different things on my like journey on YouTube University. Really, just all the different TED Talks and all the different um, uh, just all the different information that there is out there about like self healing. I really didn't know much about it, and that's what really got me uh, into this. I discovered and started practicing yoga, and of course, that brought me through. That got me like off the bed and onto a mat again, and started to really feel good and strong again in my body, and um, started to become aware then about the importance of healthy eating and treating our mind, body, and spirit with it intentionally in an intentionally healthy way. Um, so so yeah, to answer your question in a more short way, no, I wasn't healthy at all. I mean, I was healthy because I was athletic and I exercised a lot and burnt lots of calories, but the calories that I was burning was just like regular fuel. It wasn't like pure octane, like what we eat these days. So
Yeah.
um so yeah.
I see that. I see that all the time. And I wonder, why is there a disconnect for many athletes, whether they're fighting or football, where for most athletes, I see even coaches, right? Their eating habits are just terrible. But we feel as athletes that, well, we can eat whatever because we're fit and we're flexible and we're strong and we need the calories anyway. So let's just eat a whole bunch of, you know, of the burgers and carbs and whatever. It's very few athletes that I see who really uphold like real fuel. But what I see pumped into the schools and the colleges and even like professional is just binge, just eat as much calories, and it doesn't matter what kind of calories, just to get fuel.
Yeah, Blaze, I think it's really an education thing, like I just remember not knowing any better. And then when I learned better and I changed my diet and my food habits and my just like consumption habits, I was, 22, 23, right? And at that, like, well, no, I was 21, 22 when I was like after my hip thing. And, you know, 21-year-old athlete feeling just like so strong, and I felt invincible, like I had superpowers, right? And I was eating this way, and then I changed my way, and I felt even better. I
Mm.
felt even more powerful, even more, superhuman, if you will. And it was just like I lost it. I had to scream it from the top of the world. I was like, I can't believe that my whole life I'd been eating, a certain way, training a certain way, still effective. But then when I changed what I was putting into my body, it was just like all systems, talk about organ systems, like immunity and gut health and even reproductive system. As a 21-year-old dude, you're like, what? Like even more. So it's like it was just an amazing shift for me, and it really like all of that happening at the same time was really what put me on the path. And I just like that's what put me on the path to be where I'm at and do what I do today. I really I discovered the importance of eating really good, clean food, whole food, and like vegetables. And so I developed a relationship with plants and gardening. And the first time I pulled a carrot out of the ground and ate it, I was in my early 20s, and that just kind of like locked it in for me. I was like, this is it, this is it.
Mm.
And
Mm.
and yeah, that's kind of that's what got the ball rolling.
Hmm. In this pandemic, I've heard a whole lot, and I don't even know if we're still in this pandemic anymore. It just depends on who you talk to. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't even know anymore. We're on the verge of a recession, or we're in the recession, or I don't even know what the actual label is anymore. But nonetheless, in the past 2 years, 2 3 years, I've heard a lot of uh, the world is going to end. We need to grow our own food. You can't rely on the government and the grocery stores. Soon those will be wiped out, and you have to grow your own food. So grow your own food. That's all I've been hearing. Not all, but I've been hearing a whole lot of grow your own food. So you were way ahead of the game. Not the
Like way ahead. Like I'm like, it took a pandemic for y'all to start saying it's like, come on, man.
yes,
Wake up, people.
yes, indeed. So just okay. For those who don't know, what's the difference? And is there truly a difference between what you eat from your farm versus what you buy in the store?
Oh yeah, dude, 100%. It's like, I mean, I call it two different, just you would say like it's two different products, you know, like the tomato, and tomato. It's funny because I don't really eat tomatoes a lot anymore, um, but it's a common, I guess, visceral example for people. Like the tomato you grow in your garden versus the tomato you buy at the store. I mean, they're two different things. Even if it's an organic tomato, you know that even if it's an organic tomato, just organic produce in general, is better than conventional
Mhm.
produce 100%. But if you grow that food, if you grow that plant and consume its fruit, consume its body, its leaves or its stem or its root, um, you it's that you've already got a relationship with that plant,
Mm.
right? Especially if it's one that you're growing yourself, right? Like, I mean, a lot of us know this, and some people don't. But you know, plants inhale and exhale, not exactly the way we do, but they take in chemicals from the atmosphere, and they exude chemicals into the atmosphere. They're transpiring. Um, and so do we, right? But plants, they inhale what we exhale and they exhale what we inhale. So we have this like symbiotic cyclical sort of gas exchange literally with plants. And if you're breathing the same air as the plant is, like there's some level of literally chemical information being exchanged between you and this plant for months or weeks, even months, before you actually eat it. Let alone if you're like, you know, if this is your garden, and like maybe you pee on the roots of a plant or something. And there's a lot of folklore that says like if you do pee in your garden, you're like telling the plants what you're lacking so that they can synthesize it and give you what you need, you know. So there's this literal relationship, physical chemical relationship that we have with plants that we grow ourselves,
Mhm.
and there's an intelligence there, versus the tomato that you get at the store. Not to mention the fact that that tomato at the store was harvested green and pumped with gas that was shipped across, you know, the country, to get to that grocery store. So like that tomato has been off the vine a week maybe by the time it gets to your house to sit on your counter for another 3 or 4 days before you eat it. You feel me? So it's like,
Yeah.
yes, it's different, dude. It's totally, it's like a different thing.
Yeah. As a herbalist, what is what is a misconception? What's the misconception when you tell people, when people find out that you're a herbalist?
Um, I feel like the misconception, there's a lot of them, dude. And so I'm gonna say a couple of them. The misconception, one I've heard once kind of had somebody say like, "Isn't all this stuff placebo anyway?" And I was like, no, it's definitely not placebo anyway. There's literal chemical changes that happen in our body when we use herbs, and these chemical changes have influences on the way our systems work. And it's not placebo. There's chemistry, there's studies around it. That's one thing. And then they're like, "Oh, you're into alternative medicine," and I'm like, "This isn't alternative medicine. y'all, this is the original medicine.
Right.
The stuff that we've been, the pharmaceutical stuff has its place. I'm not like this huge, like, cross out pharmaceuticals, like, don't use them. It's, like, and people, I know people that are alive because of that are alive now because of that whole world. It's got its place, but it's definitely not the first thing that I reach for. Just because our bodies have evolved for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years, metabolizing and relating with the chemistry in nature, and our body, it's home to our bodies. Our bodies recognize dandelion. Our bodies recognize, like fruit. I was gonna say it's like sucre. I was gonna say sugar, but like, I mean the sugar and fruit. Whereas, like, these chemicals that are being isolated and synthesized in labs and stuff like that, so this is all very new to our bodies, and our bodies kind of go a little bit haywire when they're introduced, in a lot of different ways. So a lot of times the side effects has more words than, the benefits of these chemicals. So those are a couple of misconceptions, right? It's like, this is the original stuff. This is what our ancestors have been using, unintentionally and then intentionally for arguably hundreds of thousands of years.
Yeah, for sure. Um, do you hear or have you ever been accused that as an herbalist, all you guys do is just like smoke weed?
No,
No? Okay.
no. Um, there's a level, there's, like, I would say, a certain demographic that will look at the way I present myself and the fact that I work with herbs and be like, oh, this guy's a hippie, and like whatever. And like, I have definitely had my, like, textbook hippie phase in my life. I would definitely say that I'm, like, not so much that anymore, though I do grow the beard and have the long hair, more for spiritual reasons and traditional reasons that tie more into, like, indigenous ancestry and such things like that. But yeah, like, the hippie thing I get, and maybe some people have thought that about me, but maybe have not necessarily vocalized it. Um, because often when I talk about herbalism, I'm I'm pretty excited, and cannabis is like the last herb that I talk about. Like, I don't really talk about that herb because everybody else is talking about it, and nobody else, and not very many people are talking about, all of the other herbs.
Herbs, yes, indeed. So on that same note, all the other herbs, I look at your background and I say, wow, look at all the colors. And herbs are healing. And I got into herbs in the pandemic. No, I'm joking. It was before the pandemic. But as turning vegan and just exploring all of this and just kind of going through the, how come nobody said this? How come I wasn't taught this in school? Wait a minute, this has been around for how long? How does this make? And then realizing that, a lot of the pills, the medication, even the regular aspirin and the Advil and whatever, um, using that stuff every day causes so much harm to the body. And when I got into herbs and I took courses and classes on the herbalism, I was like so excited. Did you know that this herb does that and that herb does that? I was like a little kid. So let's start with top 3 herbs. And that may be hard.
Oh man,
Or maybe top 5.
that's the thing. It's even harder when you start building the number, because, like, there's a lot of herbs, and really that depends, right? Top 5 herbs for me, top 5 herbs for standard American, top 5 herbs for somebody that's trying to be, an athlete, top 5 herbs for somebody that's wanting to meditate for 10 days straight. Like, there's a lot of nuance, because the herbs can be really specific and affect everybody differently depending on their body constitution. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
So for me, I'm gonna say top three herbs are holy basil, the tulsi, that's Ocimum tanuflorum, or sanctum, and that's, I would say that's like my number one. I have to lift up Biden's, or Spanish needle, beggar's tick, romarillo, depends. That is Biden's alba, and there's another just like amazing herb that is close to my heart, and I just love it. It's everywhere here in South Florida, and people are like, they curse this plant. They're like, oh, this plant is like, I know nursery people that spend tens of thousands of dollars a year to eradicate this plant from their systems, the weed. And just like, it's one of my favorite herbs, man, because it's just amazing and so diverse and useful. And then number three, I the one that's popping into my head now, and it's kind of interesting, but um, is Lipia alba, or Pronto Alivio, Juanilama. They call it lemon verbena, but it's not the European lemon verbena that everybody talks about. It's a South American plant, um, and that's just another amazing, just powerhouse herb. It grows really well here in South Florida, and yeah, I mean, not a lot of people know about Lipia alba, but if I say, do you know about lemon balm? They're like, oh yeah, I know lemon balm. And Lipia alba is like lemon balm's. This is what I say anyway. I say that that Lipia is lemon balm's like big burly brother. It's a little bit stronger, but they share a lot of chemistry. I pretty much use them interchangeably. There's some specific indications where I prefer to reach for lemon balm over Lipia, um, but yeah, so I would say those are my top three, and I just have to, I feel like it's appropriate to throw in a demulcent or a mucilaginous herb there. So I'm gonna say Plantago major, or any of the Plantago genus. Those are really amazing herbs there. Plantago major is probably the most common one that's used in modern herbalism. There's a lot of different species though that they're used interchangeably. And so this is an herb that is also just has a lot of amazing implications. But I want to put it on this list here because it helps to nourish the mucosa in the body, the mucous membranes in the body, which house a lot of our immune cells, and a lot of people are really dried out, and so that the other three herbs that I meant, most herbs, but the other three herbs that I mentioned are constitutionally a little bit drying to the body. Most herbs are, and so I like to hold close the moistening herbs because it's important to be lubricated.
Right. Indeed. Um, yeah, man. It's there's so much to it, and the average Joe, for lack of better words, only knows the ginger, right? And they'll go into the
and look, man, like I think that is extremely important. I think that that's overlooked a lot of times, is the fact that, herbalism, this is like, is this obscure thing that is a lifelong study, and people are intimidated to start learning about herbs because it's like, it feels so ancient to them, it feels so obscure and kind of like witchy or whatever. But yo, like, open your pantry. What do you got in there? You've
yeah.
got oregano, you've got garlic, you've got ginger, you've probably got turmeric, you've probably got, cayenne or paprika. This you've got an apothecary in your pantry and you probably don't even recognize it.
Yeah.
But it's like, you probably got chamomile somewhere, you probably got peppermint somewhere. And these herbs made it to everybody's pantry for a reason. It's not like they made it to everybody's pantry because they're like not strong enough for anything. They made it to everybody's pantry because they've been traded for thousands and thousands of years. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? And so it's like, by default, you're born into a human body. You're an herbalist. You know what I'm saying? You eat plants. You season your. If you eat meat, you season your meat with plants. You know, like we walk and we breathe what plants exhale. Like we are inevitably, like it or not, in a relationship with plants.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Is there guidance? Is there more so warning? Because people, they go on the internet, they go on social media, and they're an expert now, right? So, is there a certain herb that you would warn people? Please research. Please know what you're doing.
Look, there's a list of those, right? And there's a list of those, and honestly, like, because of the culture of the world of health these days, I'm not going to mention the ones I'm not going to mention the more like dangerous ones, just because half of the listeners are going to Google them and buy them and maybe try them and all of these other things. So just like, I'm not even going to mention them. But what I will say is this, especially around the world of detox. There's a lot of TikTok and Instagram and trend around the detoxification process. Like, we are in this world that's toxic to us, and the environmental toxins and pollutants and all these different things and bad eating habits. So, there's a lot of preaching going on about detoxing the body.
Right.
And I just like want to raise some awareness around it, right? Is that like the detoxification, like there's certain herbs that really detox the body, and the detoxification process is no walk in the park for the tissues of our body. It's not it it wears on the tissues, especially if we're on in a constant detoxification, like always detoxing. It can be debilitating. And over the years and years that I've been, it's been 11 years now, so it's like not super old, right? So like, but whatever. Anyway, so but over the years that I've been studying and watching and learning, um, you know I would say be gentle with your body when it comes to detoxing. Like, start off with lighter herbs. Start off with your dandelion and your burdock um and artichoke leaf, and do, or red clover blossoms, herbs that support the natural detox, because our body is always detoxifying. Like the liver's one of the liver's main job is to like break things down and get them down and get them out, through usually the urinary tract. So we're always detoxing, and using herbs and foods that can support the natural detoxification process of our body is where I like to start. And when you start there, you open the detox pathways so that the toxins that are deep in have a way out and not get stuck on the way out. If your detox pathways aren't open on off the get, and you start one of these like really crazy detoxes, you run the risk of those toxins getting caught up in your, lymph nodes, or your kidneys, etc. So you want to like kind of like warming up. You want to slowly start to open up the detox pathways, and then start to reach in there. So like, I hear a lot of talk about like red willow, red willow bark, or like Cascara sacrata, or yellow dock, which are all amazing herbs that are great detoxers and cleansers for the body. But they're popular because they're strong, and everybody these days is like, I want the strongest. But little do we know, right, is that, especially using these herbs over and over again, like black walnut's another one, right? Is like, oh yeah, black walnut, parasites, everybody's got parasites, it's going to parasite cleanse. Yo, parasite cleanses are extermination. You're not only killing parasites, you're killing your gut flora as well. And we need our microbiome to be healthy. So if you like, I only put people on parasite cleanses if they like, if you come to me and you've done a stool test that tells me that you've got parasites, then I'll put you through that. Because it's not like an effective parasite cleanse isn't a walk in the park for your body. It's intense and hard and difficult for the tissues and difficult on your flora. So yeah, just like, being mindful of these like super strong herbs that are being talked about right now for detoxing is important because like, we wear on the tissues. Like the example I give is like, you got a sponge, right? And you dip that sponge in water, then you squeeze the sponge and you squeeze the sponge and you squeeze the sponge over and over again. If you look at that sponge after whatever, a week or two, that sponge is really worn. Like you got to throw it out. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of like, imagine that sponge is the tissues of our body getting squeezed over and over again by these herbs that are like super strong. Um, so another thing that's not talked about a lot is like the rehab of the detox. So you're detoxing your body, you're putting your tissues, your organs, your organ tissues and your digestive system tissues through this detoxification process, toxins rolling through there out or whatever, and then you're like, yeah, I did my detox, and then like you kind of go back to normal living or maybe you improve a little bit, but what you don't do is like intentionally restore those tissues that just got squeezed so hard that they like, let everything out. So you want to be able to you want to tonify those tissues again, you want to nourish those tissues again so that they start working how they worked before you got toxed anyway. So yeah, that's a little soapbox that I have
Makes so much
about
sense, man. Makes so much sense. I know, like I do fasting, and as a trainer, I have some of my clients who will follow me and who will fast as well. So I have a couple people joining me on this fast, and when it gets tough and it gets challenging, and you're fasting for whatever it is, whether it's 3 days or your 10 days or whatever, and on that final day of the fast, all you're thinking about is, I mean, like if you eat meat, then the bacon double cheeseburger or whatever. If you're vegan, then it might be the vegan pizza or, whatever. And all you're thinking about is rushing from that fast, from that where you felt so great, to now just indulge and overindulging in just the sugars and the starches. What is that really doing to our bodies?
That's the worst thing, man. It's the worst thing because it's like it's like you make space. What you're doing is you're making space when you're fasting, cleansing, emptying the things out. Remember, I mentioned the sponge. Like that sponge is now like nothing in it, and the tissues may be a little bit cracked, and there may be even more space now for like it's like you detox all this, and then you go straight to like the worst retox. You just like um, even with if it's like I say even vegan, but like especially things like vegan pizza. You know what I'm saying? Like that, like a vegan pizza, like regular pizza is another animal, but like vegan pizza is another is like it's all processed food. Like vegan cheese is processed, vegan, like all like it's all vegan meats are like are so processed. So it's like they're hard for our bodies to understand. Like vegan meat isn't something that our bodies recognize ancestrally. You know what I'm saying? So it's so yeah, what's that doing to our bodies? It's like nothing good, man. Like you shouldn't be fasting. You're like not ready to be fasting. You're not ready to take on fasting if that's something that you do. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I'm on a fast. I could fast, and then I'm gonna just like eat, whatever. Like fasting in that case is then dangerous for that person.
Mm. So, would you recommend maybe if they're doing, say, a 5 day, no, say more than that. Say they're doing like a, a 10-day fast, let's just say, right? Would you recommend that maybe day 7, like as they lead up to the completion of their fast, that they begin to introduce maybe food, but maybe healthier food, and they lead up to the unhealthy food rather than just dive right back into to the unhealthy food. I know
If you're
I
gonna
feel like we just
if
need to
you're gonna get
avoid
if
unhealthy
you're gonna
food.
get back to eating unhealthy food, don't fast.
Mm,
Don't fast.
yeah.
Um, and you could like do some elimination diet. You could do like a juice cleanse or whatever. Like fast for me means like you're not eating anything. You know what I'm saying? And you're just drinking juices. If you're like you mentioned like something about a fruit fast or whatever, it's just like I don't really call that a fast. I just call it like I'm eating fruit for 10 days, you know? Like fast is the discipline of not eating. And there like you know, fasting for cleansing is one thing, but I really, um most cultures around the world use fasting, like we say old ancient cultures use fasting more as a spiritual endeavor, and the discipline that fasting cultivates is part of the spiritual process that gives fasting all its benefits, a lot of its benefits. Yes, it'll reset the I forgot the word, paracelsus. I think is just like the way that our muscles move food down through our body. Like fasting does reset that. It does help to reset the microbe flora. So there are health benefits to fasting, but I think the spiritual benefits to fasting supersede that. And there's a lot of different ways to get the health benefits. There's a lot of other like healthier ways to get the benefits of what fasting would give you without actually fasting. Um, at least the way that I see it, you're drinking water, and then there's like juice cleanses or whatever. There's all of that, but yeah. So um, I would say I kind of lost it. What was the question?
um, I gotta run the tape. Oh, that would you recommend somebody who is fasting instead of
Oh,
going from their fasting diving into unhealthy food, like to
I
gradually go back?
I say the best thing to do in my experience with fasting and clients, fasting and all of that is soup. The best thing, like you're on a you're on a fast. If you're gonna start eating, when you start eating again, you start eating soup, like
Mm,
pre-digested nutrients. You
yeah.
don't want your body to work real hard to get those nutrients in. And yeah, that's basically it. Like start with a broth, and then start introducing, the carbs into that, on day 2 or 3 of starting to eat food again. And then once you've got, once your body's used to ingesting something again, then you can start, kind of recolonizing your flora, with some raw, a little bit of raw foods, some fruit, and then getting like your regular carbs, like your potatoes and your rice or whatever grains and stuff like that. After a few days of you doing this kind of reintegration, but the most important thing, like for people that eat animals, bone broth is like the most amazing thing ever. And if you don't eat animals, just a vegetable broth with the peels of your vegetables, your onion peels, and you don't peel the onions, don't peel the potatoes, don't peel the cassava, the malanga. Don't peel those things. You want that stuff in there and just like
Mhm.
really cooked real good.
Yeah.
Sea moss in that one is important. I would say cooked real good so that your body doesn't have to work too hard to get those nutrients, and so you can start to rehab that. Because as you're on a fast now, like a fasting is debilitating. It's like like when I'm on a fast, or I support people through a fast. Like I suggest you don't work. I suggest you don't do stuff, because you're not going to perform,
Yeah.
like you're not going to perform at least to the level that you can. Um, it's
Yeah.
important to while you're fasting to do the spiritual work that I feel like fasting opens the space for. You know what I'm saying? The deep meditations, etc.
Yeah. It's definitely spiritual and I feel fasting also gives us it's it helps us discipline, right? So in life, when you want to attain something, right, you go through a season where it's uncomfortable, right? Where you're learning, and I feel like that's helped me in this journey. Um, Even though I must admit I am guilty of fasting and then falling for that intense craving of whatever it is, vegan pizza or vegan ribs or whatever, highly processed stuff. All right. Just to get that, and then I usually go back to eating somewhat healthy, but it's just like that first day back. And so, can you shine some light on this? Does your stomach truly shrink when you fast? Because I've noticed that after I fast, sorry, I'm not on screen right now. That after I fast and I tell myself I'm so hungry and I order this elaborate meal, and then I can barely eat like a third of it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that it like actually shrinks, but think of it like a balloon, you know what I'm saying, or something. Like if there's nothing in that stomach, it's gonna just be smaller. It's an elastic organ. You know what I'm saying? So if you're not used to having stuff in there, the elasticity is gonna close up, shrink down a little bit, and it's gonna take a few days, several meals, because it's not like literally gonna shrink to the point that you're never again gonna be able to eat as much as you used to.
Right,
You're
right,
not going to be able to eat as much as you used to when you just come off the fast, but give it a few days of putting something in there, you're gonna, so yeah, I would say yes and no. Like, yeah, your stomach shrinks, but not literally.
right, right, right. Huh. Indeed, indeed. Now, I want you to talk about Botanica Organica. So I gotta pause
I know,
every time I
man.
say that name. Um, but before we go there, there's a little game that we play. All right. So what I always ask my guests, Ricky, do you know what time it is?
It's Botanica Organica time.
Hey,
I don't
close.
know.
It
What time is it?
is color time. Hey,
Caller time?
yes, your
Cool.
colors.
Oh,
So
color. I heard
yeah.
caller.
Oh, no, no, no. Color time. So what I usually say here is color time, color time, and I
All
do a
right.
little dance. So color time is where either host will express certain colors, and for each color, you're going to share what that color means to you, or what you think of, or what comes to mind. It can be spiritual, it can be philosophical, it can be funny, it can be generic. There is no right or wrong answer. It's whatever you see.
All right.
So with
Shoot.
that said, are you ready?
Yeah, I guess so.
Let's go. Color number one, and those in the chat, feel free to type in some colors for some ideas, especially if you want to challenge Ricky over here. So let's see. Color number one, I'll start simple. Let's go with white.
Um, Divinity, spirituality, God, purity,
Okay.
white.
Okay. Color number two, let's go with green,
Plants.
like an army green.
Plants. I was like any green, I think. Yeah, green for me is just is you know, the first thing I think of plants, and the next thing I think of is you know, the heart chakra, which is represented by the color green. So we think about just love and generosity, um, and yeah, it's just like that, you know, heart chakra things.
Indeed, indeed.
Without doing a whole lesson on the heart chakra, because I gotta rein that in. I will talk for an hour.
Quickly. Um, the heart chakra is green, right? So, and I get that our actual heart is somewhat red, but why is it that for all these years that red has been the color of anything to do with hearts and like love and all of that?
That's the thing, is that like is it that red had to do with heart and love, or the red, like when we see the traditional red heart, is it like, is it the love of generosity, or is it the love of intimacy? Is it the love of lust? You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like more often we're talking more like uh intimate relationship or sexual relationship stuff when we're talking about that red heart, like Valentine's Day. You think of, it's all red,
Yeah,
which has a lot more to do with some of the lower chakras rather than the actual, like, what the all-giving heart consciousness actually represents.
that's true. That's true. So maybe uh romance and intimacy should be more of like a orange heart instead of the red.
Yeah,
But okay.
pretty much.
All right, cool. Color number three. Indeed. I'm looking behind you for color ideas. Let's go with purple.
Um, Purple is my daughter's favorite color, one of my daughter's favorite colors. So I think about her when I think purple. And then I go to the third eye and I think of, you know, intuitiveness. Like, you know, there's the white that's like the God spirituality and like the divine. And then there's the purple, which is more like, I would say, this dimension spirituality, when it, you know, think of like the intuitive sense, or like meditation, the bliss state, when you're like in like a trance or whatever. It's like purpley, bluey kind of, you know. So yeah, I think of, that's what I think of. I think of that.
Yeah, I see purple a lot in my meditations, and I just see purple. Purple. So in the pandemic, purple became my favorite color. It was red all these years, and then I started seeing purple, eyes closed and eyes open. I just started seeing purple like everywhere, and then I really tapped into to purple, and now I feel like purple is like so powerful, and it's like the best color ever. And so anyway, all right. Color number four. I think we're on. We got a couple more, and then we'll get right back to business. Color number four. Let's go with orange.
Orange is not really a color I think about much. But you know, you say orange, and my mind, when you said colors, like I kind of like pre-programmed, like my mind just like pre-programmed. It's like, oh, he's probably going to mention the colors of the rainbow, which reflect the colors of the chakras. And so I think of like that intimate, or intimacy, and the kind of more like sexual, creative forces that we express. You know, you think of the power of like a sunrise or a sunset that has this like powerful, you know, beautiful, just orange, reds and, you know, yellows, but orange is a theme there as well. So it's got a lot to do with that kind of like, I would say like that the first three levels of just like human existence, human being, the creative and sexual forces is is uh is what, or is like what reminds me of orange, just because like of my training and the understanding the chakras.
Yeah. I Orange is a weird color to me. I don't know.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is kind of weird. It's kind of weird, and I think it's like like that because there's um, this programming that we have around the color red, and you're like, but maybe it should be an orange. Maybe it should be an orange heart. So it's like that in and of itself makes things a little bit confused. Like if we were kind of programmed and conditioned in the society to recognize orange. In the way that I would say like the Vedas recognize the color orange, which is a lot older than our society. Maybe we wouldn't be so like sexually sick.
Mm,
I don't know.
mm,
Um, but anyway,
mm, mm.
yeah, that's deep. That's real deep, and it goes deep because the society and like you're a man and a conscious man at that. So I know that you dabble and we've dabbled with the realizing of how sick we are when it comes to our the way that we approach sex the way that I speak for myself, the way that I approach sexuality in my teen years and in my early 20s, in this very like in this very in this way, and then I was introduced to what is like tantra and sacred sexuality, and it was like you know a total reprogramming for me. um, but it's been extremely powerful. And just like kind of like the same thing with the food that we are talking about earlier is like how I feel like I feel like I feel like I was just like taught wrong this whole time because of the movies and like just movies and culture and music and then pornography and all of these different things. It's like like that, like growing up thinking that intimacy or sex is that way, and then being shown this like different reality that is just at another level, was a huge mind bending experience for me. I was just like, oh my God, like I can't believe this is how this society is. Like it almost feels like I don't want to get into conspiracy, but it almost feels like it's done on purpose to a degree to keep people where in a certain vibe. But yeah, anyway, orange.
Sure. It's oh for sure. I mean it affects so much, and we normalize porn, and we normalize the sex addiction, and we normalize lust and all of that. And there's so much more. There's so much more to life. Um,
That's a fact. There's so much more to sex. We're like normalizing porn. Like that's like the most, you know, like the most unrefined way to be intimate. You know what I'm saying? And so like, there's so much more to it, and a lot of us just stay stuck there. Because it feels good and it works to make babies. So like, that's that. But then there's just so much growth that can happen when we kind of just like move to to real intimacy. Anyway.
this is going a little deep, a little off topic, but I just kind of feel led just to go here briefly. Keyword is briefly for us both, because we can both go off on this topic.
Okay.
Um, and I hear the thunder, so that means
Hmm.
something. All right. Um, I just lost it.
I think I know what it was.
Oh man. The intimacy. He spoke about the porn, and oh, it was so necessary to be said too. Oh,
Was
okay,
it?
yes, yes. So with fasting, right? When I see the ladies, especially the ladies, but the guys too, when they begin to fast off from sex, right? They're abstinent from sex, right? So they're not being intimate with anyone. But during that abstinence or being celibate, they're watching porn
They're watching porn and
and
like
masturbating.
and masturbating. So that's not celibacy, the way that I understand celibacy.
That part.
Yeah.
So they'll say, "Oh, I've been abstinent. I've been celibate for 2 years or 3 years," and then, however, every day they're into
No, that's
porn.
not. That's I don't. I like. I would argue. I would argue that that's not celibacy.
Hmm, hmm.
I'd be like, try not to touch yourself, and go that long, see what happens. Especially for dudes, you know what I'm saying? Especially for dudes, because I know what it feels like viscerally,
Yeah,
to hold to, like, like you said, we'll be brief and not go too deep, but like seed retention, and celibacy is like, it's powerful. It's really powerful work, and you're deprived if you're like intentionally being celibate for whatever reason, and you're watching, especially watching porn and masturbating, like you're like you're not, it's kind of like the fasting thing, like you're doing more harm to yourself probably than you are good, um
yeah,
maybe not more harm than good, but it's not like you're missing the point.
yeah. I would see that, especially with the ladies, and I'm not judging, right? At no point am I judging. I've had my battles with porn and all that, so I'm not judging. But I've just heard from so many ladies where they share, jeez, right?
Mhm.
Judgment, where they share that they're celibate and they're waiting on God to, to provide with the, with that right man. Um, but they're like hip deep, like into the porn. And I say, well, try to not do the porn. No, 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 no. I need that. And I'm just like, I wonder how much more powerful your celibacy could become if you were
Yeah,
to not, if you were to not dive into, because it's thoughts and our thinking. So yes, in reality, you're alone by yourself, but those images, right? They give off a vibration. So your body feels like you're actually there, like
yeah,
it's
that that
present.
that that's yeah, that's a fact. That, I mean, especially watching, especially like using porn. Like I would say that especially if you're using porn, you're not being celibate. And like masturbating is arguable. But I would say if you're doing that, that's like not, you're like you're still programming yourself. You're like, it's literally, training your brain to to think that this is what, sex is. Sex is what sex or intimacy is, and
Yeah,
um, yeah, it's not good.
yeah. Well, that was our brief. I want to dive into this later on in the year. I want to go really deep in intimacy and really upset some people, but out of love though, right? So that's to come. All right, final color. As you got off topic, final color. Um, let's go with a bright color. Let's go with like a hot pink.
Hot pink. Um, I think of little girls. My daughter is her favorite colors are pink and purple. Um, so I just think of my little one. Pink is never really a color that I put a lot of mind to, just because like it always felt really girly to me, and I always felt kind of masculine. So like I was just like, yeah, pink is for girls kind of thing. And then like, when I was in middle school, I remember like the pink shirts thing started becoming real popular, and then pink was like for breast cancer awareness, so that's all really cool. And I just became a little bit more comfortable with pink. I know a guy that wears pink on payday. That's kind of cool. But I just like, um,
Hmm.
I just, pink is cute, I think. That's all. Like I'm, on the other side of the wall here, I'm looking at a card that's hot pink, and it just, It's just I don't know. Pink. Just think. Honestly, I think of my daughter. I think of my
Yeah.
little one. She likes pink. It's cute. She's 4. She's gonna be 4 in a month. So
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I don't. As you said, I really only wear pink for like the breast cancer awareness. That's really it. I don't. So I have pink socks and pink clothes because of that we wear like in October. But even that is still programming. In any
yeah, like,
case.
I have nothing pink. The only thing I have pink is my daughter's stuff.
Okay. All right. So now back to, well, you completed color time. All right. No
How'd
lives
I
were
do? How'd
lost during the filming of this.
I do?
So let's get back to business. Botanica, Organica. Share with those who have never been there exactly what that world is, and because I feel it's a world. I don't feel it's just a location.
Right. So Botanica Organica is an herbal apothecary, which is a place that offers herbal remedies or herbs by the ounce. And I make in this shop here, Botanica Organica, I offer tinctures and tea blends and salves, essential oils, and different combinations of herbs to help people be as healthy as they can in the most natural way. And I kind of organize things through the organ systems. It's kind of like how I think. I'm like, oh, this group of herbs is good for, or have, structure, function, actions in the digestive system. These herbs have, an influence on the reproductive system. These herbs have an influence on the immune system. These herbs have an influence on the nervous system. And then, different herbs will stimulate function or decrease function of these body systems. And that's what I'm here to help guide people towards, the herbs that they need for their body. And I do that briefly when I'm in the shop retail wise, but when people come in with a little bit more complicated situations, I offer them a sit down consultation so that we can go deep and be more holistic and holistically encompassing their lifestyle and their body constitution um, and the herbs that may or may not be, the herbs that they're using and the herbs that may or may not be, good for them. So that's what I've got going on, like in the shop, and then I've got a lab where I make all of the tinctures that I offer people, and then I've got a garden on site where I grow a lot of the plants that I use that I grow a lot of the plants that I use as remedies, like tulsi and moringa and Lipia alba I mentioned earlier, and Bidens I've got too, and I grow different things throughout the year depending on the season. So like you said, it's a whole world here, and I'm not alone on the land. There's 3 different businesses on the land that kind of work to bring plants to the people. So Tree Amigos is an organic nursery where you grow a garden, or you want to grow a garden at home. They have everything you need, from the soil to the plants to the knowledge to get you started. And then there's a fruit stand here that sources high quality fruit from the tropics. A lot of it comes from around here as well. There's some organic, there's organic options, and then some fruits don't come organically. They're just too hard to find. But yeah, and then they've got like sweet drinks, and then in here I've got like I mentioned, all the herbs and tinctures and all the fun stuff, and I make like herbal elixirs and teas and stuff. So it's like a whole like a healthy village kind of thing, that's going on out here. It's super fun.
Yeah, yeah. Indeed, indeed. So if someone was just curious about this whole new world, and they were just tired of the the garbage, right, that they're receiving from everywhere else, um, would they be able just to show up there to the shop and like ask questions and dive in?
Yeah, 100%. The shop, I'm open here 10 to 5 Friday through Sunday, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday is when I take appointments and do consultations and do garden work and lab work and stuff like that.
Okay.
But yeah, reach out on the gram, Botanica _Organica or botanicaorganica.com will take you to the website where you can send me a message and it'll come to me directly. And a super important thing that I do here for the community is I offer classes. I do a variety of different classes, from like the core foundational program on how to understand herbs and create tinctures and salves and essential oils and hydrosols and all the different teas and decoctions and syrups you can make. Like I teach a series of classes that offers like that learning, and then I do like intros, and then I do plant walks where we walk around the land and identify the useful and edible weeds that grow in our area, which is an important body of knowledge to have. So yeah, like definitely come through and then check out the classes and come to them, because this is a really, I would say, a really potent way to begin this journey into this world and walk in confidence with, okay, yeah, like I'm going to do this and I'm going to be as healthy a human as I can because I understand these concepts.
Mm. Yeah. Do you all still do the yoga? I know I went there maybe 2 years ago, and there was an outdoor yoga event or something like
Yeah,
that.
so yeah, we'll be doing those events starting up again in October. And we took this summer off because it was just blazing hot and it was like really, it was just like really tough to have people doing like market vibes doing yoga outside at the time that we were having it. It just wasn't working for the people. So we're gonna start kicking it off again when it gets a little bit cooler.
Okay.
And yeah, that's the thing for sure. I would say to stay up with all that stuff, like what we kind of post all the events that we do on Instagram. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, what we do now though are the sound healing meditations. We do like sound baths at night, so when it's like not blazing hot and people come out with their mats and lay down, and we kind of list them out with a bunch of crystal bowls and the didgeridoo and the gong and all these different things. That's what we're doing like now. But yeah, the yoga's gonna come back, and we're probably gonna do like a farm fit thing too. We want to do like workouts, like exercises, where we bring people out and just exercise on the farm. Like instead of doing shrugs with weights, we'll do shrugs with a wheelbarrow filled with
Yeah.
ground or something. Etc. So yeah, there'll be stuff going on.
Very cool. Very cool. Very cool. And last question. Well, maybe. If anyone if you've piqued anyone's interest into herbalism and being an herbalist, is there like an apprenticeship, or is there any course, a intro into herbalism or farming or anything like that you offer?
Well, yeah. So the course that I offer is the course I would recommend for locals to get to get their foot in the door. It's called the Everyday Herbalism Program, and it's a series of classes. And the next one starts on October 2nd, and then we meet every other Sunday, and we just like it. That course is designed for people to gain confidence in making herbal things, like making tinctures, making like, am I making this tea right? Should I be, how long should I steep this tea? Or should I boil this leaf? Or should I, like, all of those little nuances are like broken down to the tea. Like I cover all of that stuff. And then, an important aspect is herbal energetics that I talk about a lot, which is basically the language we use to describe the patterns that we observe in how plants work with us. You know what I'm saying? So like you eat something spicy, you feel your circulation. That's a pattern, right? So spicy herbs have implications for the circulatory system and the blood. Bitter plants, certain organs. Sour plants, certain tissues. Sweet plants, certain nourishment, etc., etc. So I break all that down. So if I have piqued somebody's interest in herbalism and they want to learn more, go to botanicaorganica.com/classes and read up on the program and sign up. That's really like, if you wanted to do an intro, I would say come to one of the plant walks.
Okay. Okay. Nice, nice, nice. Well, as it's pouring outside, it sounds like a damn hurricane. I want to thank you so much for your time, for your experiences, for your expertise, for being real and just allowing us to dialogue about many things, right?
Yeah, I feel like we just chopped it up. We had a good talk.
Yeah, from the brainwashing to intimacy to herbalism to being a business owner to the martial arts. It was so much, but it's never in vain. These conversations are never in vain, and we just never know, how many lives we are impacting. So I thank you for that. Those who aren't able to catch the live, the replay to this episode right here, episode 77, will be available on YouTube as soon as we end. As soon as we end, the replay will be up on YouTube. And for the audio, those who prefer the audio to stream in your car or wherever you are, the audio version will be available tomorrow on your major platforms, your Spotify, your Google Podcast, your Apple Podcast, so on and so forth. Make sure you share if we piqued your interest, or you were thinking of somebody who this would truly help, and share. Don't hesitate. In life sometimes it's just that podcast or that word or just that video that was sent to us at the right time. That was that confirmation, that reminder of the work that we need to be done. So I'm a firm believer in healing, and there is no destination in healing, right? Healing is a journey, so we're all healing together at different levels. But as a community, I encourage you all to, if you haven't already, to step into the realm of healing. To not sound redundant, but it's healing, right? And it not only heals you, but it heals others, right? It's all energy. So you'll realize that you'll see a difference in your kids. You'll see a difference in your relationships, and you'll see a difference with your relationship with yourself, right? Indeed, indeed. So that is it, man. Episode 77. Again, Ricky, man, thank you so much for your time. I'll be tagging you in a whole bunch of things as we make clips and highlights of the episode. And I also want to highlight some of the courses that you have. I may even take some of them. My schedule is crazy, right? But I really dived into herbalism maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And I learned so much, but I want to continue learning. I just got to figure out my schedule, as I'm Jamaican. So I have 5 different jobs going on at the same time and just trying to figure it out. But we will definitely be in touch, like, for sure.
Yeah, man, I look forward to it for sure. Anything I can do to help and help people rise up, in any way that looks like it'll be an honor and a pleasure. So yeah, I look forward to hearing from you and your tags and posts and stuff for sure.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. In closing, is there a word, is there a quote, is there a phrase, anything that comes to mind that you'd like to share with the people, for someone or people who may be going through a challenging time right now?
Well, you say it like that, like the challenging time kind of thing. It's like, what goes up must come down, and vice versa. Like, it's just like this life is a roller coaster. I notice, and if you're having a challenging time right now, it's like the more strain you put on that string, when you let it go, the farther you're going to shoot it. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like a lot of times, we just got to grin and bear it and stay focused on what's important. And follow your bliss, right? Like they say, you follow your bliss, and the rest is history. So yeah, follow your bliss. I think that's the most important thing. And when you first started saying that, what I thought was, let food be thy medicine, and let thy medicine be thy food. I think that is a really important quote to live by, and understand that that what we put in our body, as food is our medicine. Um, and remembering that with every bite that we take, with every tea that we drink, um, with every bottle we pop, whatever bottle that may be, like remember that you are what you eat.
Yeah. Indeed. Indeed. For sure, man. Thank you again. This was the Blaze the Lion podcast. As I always end, peace and love.
Blessed love.